This is the Horror Movie Show on hmpod.com, your one-stop shop for all things horrific and horror-related. Read the reviews, frolic in the forum, hem and haw over the horoscopes, and listen mightily to the Horror Movie Show with Mark and Jerry, your horrible hosts.
Hey there, folks. Jerry here.
And Mark.
Bringing you another episode of the Horror Movie Show on hmpod.com.
Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun. We've been away. I had some sadness in my life. My dad passed away fairly suddenly. It's been a
roller coaster.
Nasty couple of years. My mom died in July of 2011, and then last summer, as you faithful listeners will know, my wife and I watched our dog die of cancer, our 5-year-old dog die of cancer, and then this year my dad got sick with something called myasthenia gravis, which is a disease in which you lose control of voluntary muscles.
Isn't that weird, though?
It is. It's a very rare disease. Between 3 and 30 people out of a million will get this.
Yeah, the side effects can happen anywhere. I mean, in your body.
Yeah.
Originally, they thought he had a stroke.
He looked like he had a stroke. One of his eyes was drooping, and he was weak in his left arm. Although the eye was his right eye, and it was his left arm, so stroke is usually on the same side.
Right.
So that, I think, tipped off his doctor, who was obviously a good diagnostician, because he pegged it, and he put Dad on a drug, and he was improving. And then, and this is the weird thing, if we were Americans, we'd have a lawyer on this.
Yeah.
But somebody from his doctor's office phoned him up and said, okay, quit that drug because you got some CT scans coming up. Dad went off the drug, and the next morning he couldn't swallow, which, again, is a voluntary muscle.
Yeah.
So his eyes went googly, and they didn't just go googly, like cross-eyed. He was seeing double images up and down. I can only imagine how disconcerting that would be.
That happens to me once in a while.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
It is weird.
Is it when you get hit with a frying pan, like
I don't know what
Looney
it is.
Tunes cartoon?
It's a muscle. It's definitely a muscle.
Wow.
Because a muscle in the eye just relaxes, and then suddenly one eye's looking up slightly and the other one's looking straight.
Oh.
And it is up and down.
You know, I did.
It's very disconcerting.
I was joking about the skillet to the back of the head, cartoon style, but I got hit in the head with a football one time in grade school.
And I think it's still stuck there.
Yeah, and I think it's the only time in my life I've been knocked out, and I was only out for a couple of seconds.
Yeah.
But when I came to, I was seeing double, and the double was sort of moving around, so I think my eyes were swimming a bit, and everything was blue.
Really?
That was freaky. Like, everything had a blue cast to it.
Oh, that is freaky.
Yeah.
I got hit in the head in high school playing basketball, and I didn't get knocked out, but I was flat on the ground, and I saw stars.
Yeah, well, I've seen stars,
And it was the first migraine I ever had.
Oh, goodness.
And ever since then, I've had migraines.
Oh, my gosh. Oh,
but it was weird, because, all of a sudden you see these flashes of... And I still get the flashes.
Holy moly.
Now my migraines are really, really mild compared to when I was a teenager. Right. Whereas I couldn't do anything. It would just completely disable me.
Yeah,
the migraines were so bad. But now it's like I get the flashes and then I get a mild headache. But I feel lousy.
Yeah.
But nothing compared to what it used to be, where you felt like throwing up and dying.
Yeah.
It literally felt like somebody was hitting your head with an axe.
Yeah, not my head.
Yeah. It was
just to get back to my dad, and then I'll put this away for now. He used to surprise me when I'd go over and visit him, take his dog for a walk, whatever, and he would just slip into the conversation some quote that I had said on this very podcast, and it used to disconcert me because I don't think of people actually listening to these silly things. Mark and I do them, and then I rarely listen to them myself, but yeah, he was a listener. He used to get a kick out of them, and that always flattered me.
Yeah, well, did he think much of me?
I don't know that he ever quoted you, but I wouldn't have recognized it probably. But he was a great guy. My dad Tony, he was wonderful. And we had a great memorial for him this last Friday, and I was feeling pretty darn depressed. But then the day after, I woke up with a hangover, but having done a nice wake for him. All his friends there, a bunch of us spoke. I just sort of felt like I could put it behind me now and get on.
Right.
Yeah.
which is very quick.
Well, I mean, I'm still going to miss him.
Of course you are.
I feel like he's a phone call away, an email away, his Facebook page away.
Yeah.
And he lived just half a mile down the road from me. And it's hard to believe that I never have a chit-chat with him again.
What's going to happen to all his online stuff?
Should I tell the semi-mystical thing that happened after he died?
Go ahead, because this is a horror show.
It is. Yeah. This is the closest I've got to a personal ghost story. But my dad died on a Saturday, and Saturday I was just pretty much stunned, as were my sisters. Sunday night I was sitting out in our front yard we got a new puppy. Everybody should know that. We got a new puppy named Hallie, short for Hallelujah. And she's great. She's a wonderful little Wheaton Terrier puppy.
Again.
And yes, Teresa really wanted that Wheaton again. So it's late at night. The dog's not house trained. I'm sitting on a plastic chair in the front yard, and I'm looking up at the stars, and I'm remembering something that I typed on Facebook to a buddy of mine about how when I was little, some of the earliest conversations I can remember are being with Dad, looking up at the stars when we'd be on a camping trip, and talking about how big is the universe? How vast is the universe? Does it go on forever, or is there an edge to the universe? And if there's an edge, what's beyond that? Right? And the nice thing...
We've all thought of that.
Exactly. Well, of course. But, when you're 4, this really blows your mind. But the nice thing about having these conversations, I look back on them now and I realize the best thing about them was that we were equals in these conversations. I may have only been 4 and he might have been 30.
But he had no answer.
But he didn't know any better than I did.
Yeah, the answers are...
These mind-blowing questions.
Yeah.
Nobody knows if there's an edge.
Which explains, that's why I don't believe that there's a one-and-all God kind of thing. Because I look out there and I'm going, geez, it's big. It's bigger than big.
So, the slightly spooky part. So one of the things that I had been thinking about was this time that Dad and I were camping up in Garibaldi Park near Black Tusk here in BC. And we were just sleeping in the open air. It was, I think, July or August. Anyway, there was a great meteor shower going on. And
I've seen those, yeah.
Just like, I think it's the Pleiades. I'm not 100% sure. But just like a dozen every minute.
Uh-huh.
And we were up a mile in the air and clear as a bell and just gorgeous, just bing, 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 like fireworks. Mars, I remember being right above us and just red as a stoplight. It was just brilliant. And while I'm remembering that, I see to my right, out the corner of my eye, a little flare in the sky, and I turned my head quickly and I saw a shooting star. It wasn't like just a little streak of light. It looked like a flame. It was big enough that it looked like a yellow flame in the sky. So it must have been close and it must have been fairly big. But just as I was thinking about Dad and meteorites and what's out there, I saw this damn thing. Even though I like horror movies, I'm by no means a believer in anything. I'm a complete and utter cynic.
So it's coincidence.
That's
it. You believe in that.
If a Catholic priest had wandered by just at that moment, I might have taken him seriously. Because it was eerie.
He'd want you to come into the bushes with him and you'd take him seriously.
No, I'm too old. I'm too old for the Catholic priests now. All right, well, let's go.
That's when you know you're old.
Let's go from personal death and horror to more general death and horror. We've got a few movies to talk about this week. And also thank you to the people who sent notes to the Facebook page and the web page and stuff. I really appreciate that. It means a lot. Anyway, so on to the important stuff.
Yeah. This is all important, guys.
Texas Chainsaw 3D, a brand new movie directed by John Lusenhop, written by Adam Marcus, Deborah Sullivan, and Kirsten Elms, based on characters by Toby Hooper and Kim Henkel. It stars Alexandra Daddario as Heather Miller, Dan Yeager as good old Leatherface, Trey Songs as Ryan, Scott Eastwood as Carl, Tanya Raymond as Nikki, Bill Moseley as Drayton Sawyer, Gunnar Hansen as Boss Sawyer, and we see him in clips as the original Leatherface. So, what do you think of this movie?
I liked it.
Did you?
Yeah, I thought it was okay. It's a modern retelling of kind of like the tale.
Well, it begins with the original family being wiped out.
Yeah.
And the only survivor Well, there's two survivors, but the main survivor is Leatherface, the slightly retarded.
Yeah, and you wonder
maniac.
how that he was the only one to survive.
Yeah, well, he crawled out.
He was in some sort of metal room when the whole house went up in
That's
flames
right,
or something.
Yeah, so he got away. So, that's like back in the 70s, and now it's today, and Leatherface.
Yeah, he's in a underground bunker underneath the house.
Yeah, he's living in, it's like a sub-basement in this old lady's house. Who's been looking after him.
Yeah, it's off the wine cellar. Yeah. And I couldn't understand how they can call this young girl up and say, we got something for you.
Yeah, you've inherited something.
Come on down and we'll give it to you. And she finds out it's this huge house, this estate.
Big southern mansion.
Plantation kind of estate. She brings friends with her, of course, because you got to have somebody to kill.
Well, it's your typical young adults getting together to be torn to pieces.
Yes, well, you got to have fodder.
Absolutely, you do.
And I was surprised how quickly most of them were knocked off.
Oh, yeah.
It was like bang, bang, bang. It was like, holy crap, they're not going to make it suspenseful at all.
Well, it was a short movie, as I recall. It was 90 minutes, including
I don't think any horror movie
credits.
should be over 90 minutes, honestly.
Well, I'm just considering the others.
There's the
Nicole Kidman movie. I thought that worked for 2 hours.
Well, there are the odd one, but most
The Shining, that's
most slasher, kill.
Oh, those cheap ass movies. I agree.
Even this one, we're talking about chainsaw.
Yeah.
So no more than 90 minutes of the chainsaw.
That's plenty. Yeah.
Because the main character himself, is really just a stereotypical
Leatherface.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing abnormal about this guy other than the fact that he wants to kill everybody. I mean, he's just a normal psycho.
Well,
you don't really get to know him very well.
They had a business selling, meat pies or whatever it was.
Way back when. I liked the flashback.
Yeah.
Because I couldn't remember much about the first.
Right.
So it was a nice little refresher kind of thing. And I liked the characters. There seemed to be a lot of character actors that were part of the family that got wiped out in the big fire. So, I enjoyed that part. This is a high-budget movie. I mean, it was the budget was $20 million.
Good Lord.
You can tell it's slick.
Yeah.
It's not something that's just put together.
Well, did you see the recent remake of Texas Chainsaw Massacre?
Yeah, I did.
The pretty girl.
I can't remember. I saw it as well.
It was just 2010.
It was a remake, though.
Yeah, it was a remake of the original.
Yeah.
The original, of course, broke ground, Tobe Hooper's original, because
I was surprised.
Nobody had seen a movie quite that unpleasant.
See,
before.
Tobe Hooper had done other movies that were nothing like this.
Well, no, I think this was like the thing that broke him. So he's made movies since that weren't like this. But this was.
He did kids' movies, I completely forgot that he did the original.
I was only 14 or 15 when I saw the original.
Yeah, Tobe Hooper, didn't he do Poltergeist?
Was that him? Yeah, it might have been him.
I think he did Poltergeist.
Well, see,
as well.
that's once he got some money behind him.
Yeah, and that was slick. I mean, but a kid-friendly horror movie, it was E.T. meets a slasher.
I never liked the Poltergeist movie anyway. So.
Well, I liked the first one. Yeah, it was okay.
Never grabbed it.
It was Spielberg meets. I think he produced it.
Yes.
And Tobe Hooper directed it. But I was surprised to see his name in the credits when they said based on the characters.
My impression of this movie was not as favorable as yours. I thought it was a little thin. I thought that they why just Leatherface? And Leatherface is such an idiot. He wouldn't be able to do anything. But essentially the old lady was just keeping him locked in the basement. Yeah. And yet he could come and go.
Seemed to be.
Yeah.
And
he was the one who kept locking
And then why
out.
didn't they warn her? Oh, they gave her a letter.
Yeah,
and she doesn't
never read it.
And of course the lawyer says, read the letter.
How many times did he tell her?
Yeah, and of course she doesn't.
No.
So they all end up getting massacred except for her. Mm-hmm. I was shocked at how quickly he killed them all. And it was like there was no lingering. It was like slash.
Well, yeah, but there's a few. It takes.
There was a couple scenes.
There's a young fellow chained up. Oh, he's on a meat hook, and he gets chainsawed like in half through his belly. And
that was well done.
Oh yeah, but That's a dull chainsaw because it takes a long time to cut through that poor.
Well, the feet weren't anchored, so he was kind of like pushing him with it too. So, if he was anchored, he would have went right through.
I suppose, yeah. Really, what you want to do is tie him to one of those moving belts that cuts you down from head to.
Oh yeah, the bandsaw.
The bandsaw, yeah. Or the big whirling blade from a lumber mill.
Yeah,
those are good. Yeah.
I thought it was interesting that he didn't die until he was completely cut in two. It wasn't, part way through.
Yeah.
He didn't pass out. Nothing. He was yelling like crazy.
Oh yeah.
Through the whole thing.
Plus, the heroine gets to watch this.
Yes.
So, yeah, it's good fun.
Yeah. Please don't.
And of course, I don't want to give away all the secrets, but the heroine has her own twisted part in this story. The reason, of course, that she's inheriting this house, about which she knows nothing until partway into the movie.
Yeah.
So overall, I would say if you like gory horror movies, this is a good one.
I think
it's inferior to the other Texas Chainsaw movies. The early ones started to turn into comedies. By the time they made, I think, Texas Chainsaw 3, you had Dennis Hopper running around as a mad sheriff chainsawing people and just overacting as he always did.
Yeah.
And they were really getting crazy, the early Tobe Hooper ones.
Did he do more than one?
Tobe Hooper?
Yeah.
Well, he was at least, credited as creating the characters. I think he kept his hand in on the early one. We'll be starting our Wes Craven retrospective in the next episode. And there's a guy who, for example, he always made money off each of the many sequels to Nightmare on Elm Street, but he only directed the first one. Now, on the other hand, I should save this till next time, but on the other hand, he directed all 4 of the Scream movies.
Right.
So Craven kept his hand directly in those.
So I guess he enjoyed the comedy kind of.
I suppose, yeah.
He does have that. Anyway,
plus
we'll talk about him later.
To do. Yeah.
We'll talk about him later.
What else has he got to do? He can't have friends not making movies like that.
He had a bit part in one Castle.
Oh, did he?
He was in Castle.
Craven?
Castle was considering making a movie out of one of his books.
Right.
So he calls up, and they also had a case that had something to do with the movies.
Right.
So he calls up Craven and asks his opinion, and he says, "I'm not making a movie. I'm not making a movie." And then Craven hangs up and goes, "Yeah, right."
Craven has appeared as himself in a lot of films. He's a bit of a ham bone.
I think he's just got a sense of humor.
Yeah. Oh, I think very definitely. Yes, more about him starting next week. We've got a 3-part retrospective on him. So the next movie I got here is one suggested by a listener, and I thank you. Audition is the name of it. 1999
Japanese movie.
Korean movie, I believe. Set in Japan, and I believe they're all Japanese actors. Directed by Takashi Miike, written by Ryu Murakami. He was the novelist, and then the screenplay by Daisuke Tengan.
So remember that.
Yeah, should I even bother reading all the Japanese names? Because I couldn't even tell which names are male and which are female, and simply because I'm not familiar with Japanese.
Yeah.
But Jun, does that sound feminine? Does it sound masculine?
Could be.
I know.
It could be either way.
Anyway, the lead is played by Ryo Ishibashi. The woman that he gets in touch with is Aihi Shiina.
All right, now that we've got that out of the way.
That's out of the way. So the gist of this movie is that Ryo is a lonely, middle-aged man. His wife has died some years back. His teenage son is sort of pushing him, find a wife. Evidently, you don't find a girlfriend in Japan, you find a wife.
Yeah,
right.
Well, I guess sort of an arranged kind of thing happening.
It's all pretty damn formal. There's lots of bowing. I notice in this, the guy's talking to his would-be girlfriend on the phone, and he's bowing to her over the phone.
Good Lord. It's just a habit, I suppose.
I guess so. They can tell, I think.
Yeah.
Just the way they talk. Oh, yeah, he's
Buddy,
bowing.
He's bowing. He's
being nice boy.
He's scraping. Okay.
This is a weird movie.
It is. Let me get into the plot here. So, Ryo is a middle-aged man. He's looking for a girlfriend. He's got a nice teenage son who's university, and he wants to be a paleontologist, and he's pushing his dad. So the dad has a buddy, Tetsu Sawaki, and Tetsu is a filmmaker. And he says, well, I tell you what we'll do. I'll say that we're making a movie, and we'll get a whole bunch of pretty girls in here, and you can have your pick.
Yeah. Just
that way it's like free.
We'll get their resumes. You can decide which ones we're going to audition.
So who does the dad decide on? But this one rather plain-looking girl,
very thin and looked very young for him.
Yeah, and I didn't think she was pretty at all. And she talks in that little breathy baby voice that we know so well from the anime.
Yeah, I think they all talk like that.
I know Japanese women, and they don't all talk like that all the time. But if I'm so glad that you asked me out. I'm not worthy of you.
Yeah, but hold on. This is subtitled, so
it is. But her voice is very little mousy voice.
Yes, very mousy. Yeah. And she's thin.
Oh, as a rail.
She just looks like a little girl.
Yeah. She comes to the interview. After the interview, the guy phones her up, and they do go out, and they have a nice time. I believe they sleep together.
Not the first time,
maybe the second
time. Yeah.
Okay, but the filmmaker friend says to the dude, listen, she lied on her application.
Her resume kind of thing.
It's hinky. Give her a miss. Don't have anything to do with her. And he goes, right, absolutely, and then starts seeing her even more intently.
Yeah.
So we get shots of her in her little tiny apartment with what looks like a body. There's something in a big sack, and it's alive, but it's just sort of moaning in this tied up sack.
There was like duplicate scenes.
Yeah.
One normal scene and then one freaky scene.
Yeah.
And it seemed to be duplicating at different times, so I couldn't figure out if he was going insane or if she was actually doing this stuff. Because it seemed like whenever he went to sleep, he was having these nightmares about her, and then he would wake up again.
Yeah, and sometimes it was a dream within a dream.
Yeah.
So he wasn't sure what was reality. We weren't sure what was reality.
So I have no idea if this film was exactly what it was. Was it a dream or not?
Yeah.
It was a real sick dream.
Yeah, it's a nightmare.
Because, you watch her and she's taken off one of his feet.
Yeah, I know.
With a thin sort of string-like blade.
Yeah, like a saw that's a flexible band.
It's very, very thin.
Yeah.
It would be like a chain of some sort that could cut.
Yeah, she saws through his ankle and
she wraps it around his ankle and goes back and forth and you see she's got a really nice smile.
Oh yeah. Well, she's explaining, this can only improve your life.
Yeah. And then she starts putting pins in him.
Oh well, that's the first thing she does is she fills him full of acupuncture needles
and real deep. And as she's doing it, she's going deeper. And it's like in Japanese, and it sounds like wee 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 wee, and it's like, oh, she's sick. And she puts them in his eyes.
Oh, I know. It's horrible. Yeah.
I thought she was actually puncturing his eyes, but she was going
around the
edges of his eyes.
I think it was supposed to look like she was pushing them into his eye.
But the close-up shot of her face as she's doing it, deeper.
Yeah. Well, she looks like a mad child.
The first half of this movie, I didn't know if it was going to be horrific or not, because it seemed very straightforward.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden it got into this weird crap. Yeah. Then you didn't know if it was real or not.
No.
So, kind of an interesting movie, very sick movie. It's very low-key.
It is.
It's very dry.
Understated, and yet at the same time, the scenes where it's gory are bloody horrible.
Yeah.
So interesting. Probably if you like horror anime, you'd like this movie, because it does depart from, as Mark says,
reality.
Strays far from reality. And even the main character, I mean, she's mad, obviously. And the dude...
But I don't know, because it could be all in his dream.
Because I think it's true, because the son comes in at one point and rescues the old man.
Yeah.
But is she a demon, or is she just a mad young woman? And, has she put her disease in the dad? It's impossible really to know. But that's what they were intentionally doing.
At what point they make love, they're cuddling in the bed, and then he goes off to sleep, and she cuts off his legs, and then he wakes up and goes, "Whoa, that was weird."
Yeah.
And then he hugs her again, and kind of looking at her like, "Oh,
could you do this? Really?
Could you really do this?" And then he went to sleep, and then they're back into it again.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, is it a dream or isn't it?
I know. Yeah. Well, that I found to be the charm of this movie, that it plays with reality. And I've always liked that. I've always thought that, the David Lynch movies and so on, where you're not quite sure, is this the madman's fantasy? Or is it just mad things happening to poor, sad people?
It's when you're screwing with somebody's mind. That's audience's mind.
Yes.
Anyway. It is a thin line, though, between absurdity and being clever.
Yes.
Being...
Or sexy and sexist.
Yeah.
It goes to 11.
Anyway, it's a good view.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to see it again.
No, once was plenty.
It's a masochistic kind of...
Yeah.
Anyway, but it was well done.
Yeah.
I don't watch a lot of foreign movies.
No.
So, and the subtitles were okay. I mean, there wasn't a lot of dialogue. There was a lot of blank spaces.
Yeah.
So
a lot of bowing.
Especially when she's sawing off his leg. There wasn't a lot of dialogue.
Deeper. Okay, let's go from the ridiculous to the even more ridiculous. This is a movie that Mark insisted that I watch.
Insisted? I said...
Hotel Transylvania. Well, you'd already seen it, I sort of felt obliged to catch up on it.
I'd seen it. Honestly, I'm not too keen on it.
Oh, it was awful.
Yeah, I mean, it's like...
Hotel Transylvania, 2012 movie, directed by Gendy Tartakovsky, written by Peter Bainham and Robert Smigel, who I really, really enjoy. He's my Facebook friend, and he does those hilarious cartoons, or at least he used to, on Saturday Night Live. The ambiguously gay duo and stuff like that. I love that stuff.
Of course you would.
Now, so voices in this, it's just a grab bag of comedians.
Yeah.
There's good ones and there's bad ones, and actors as well. Adam Sandler as Dracula, Andy Samberg from SNL as Jonathan, Selena Gomez as Mavis, Kevin James as Frankenstein, actually it should be Frankenstein's monster, Fran Drescher as Eunice, Steve Buscemi as Wayne. He was the Invisible Man, yeah. Molly Shannon, David Spade, CeeLo Green, John Lovitz, Chris Parnell, another favorite of mine from the old Daily Show, Rob Riggle, and Paul Brettain. Adam Sandler's sense of humor really just does nothing for me.
No, it's always like he's trying to be funny.
Yeah.
But he's not.
But he's missing. He's loud.
Yeah.
And as a Canadian, I feel that our sense of humor has been influenced both by American and British.
Yeah.
With our own
twist
to it, yeah. But American comedy and American animation in particular seems to be all about yapping like dogs, just jabbering away.
Yeah.
Yak, 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 yak. There's never a moment's silence.
Yeah.
There's never an opportunity to, just enjoy the moment or be understated.
Yeah.
Everything's got to be over the top. And this whole movie, there isn't a frame that hasn't got, something running into a wall or somebody,
they were trying to put too much into it.
It was way too busy.
Yeah, because even in the background, they were trying to make you laugh.
Something. Yeah.
And it's like, why?
Yeah, it's not funny.
It's like it's like slapstick.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like
a little goes a long way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas if it's just continuous slapstick, you go, kind of, give me a break. I don't want to see all this.
Yeah. And I also have to say, watching this movie in particular, you've got these popular people. I won't say most talented, although, can't argue with Steve Buscemi. But, really, Kevin James, really the best person you could find as a voice actor? Are you telling me, okay, I know he's a big, fat, funny guy who can do a cartwheel.
all.
But that's him live. Do we need to have Kevin James doing voices?
He's done voices before.
But there are plenty of actors, I think, who could have done a better, funnier job.
He's a friend.
Well, exactly.
And that's what it... That's
this nepotistic crap.
That's what he does.
Selena Gomez? Really? The best actress
Fran
they could
Drescher?
find? Oh, I know. That's just horrible.
Come on.
And she's just redoing that disgusting New York Jewish voice that she did as the nanny. And it's supposed to make you angry, I think.
Anyway, the plot line is...
There's a plot?
Yeah, there is a plot. The plot line is that his wife has been killed by the villagers.
Right.
And many centuries ago.
Right.
And his daughter survives. And Dracula decides he's going to build a castle.
It'd be like a resort.
It'll be like a resort for monsters.
Yeah.
It would be completely isolated from humans.
Human-free. Yeah.
Human-free, because he is paranoid over humans.
Yeah.
And the way...
Well, the idea is that the monsters are poor innocent victims.
Yeah.
And humans are the monsters with their torches and pitchforks.
Who want to kill them.
And hatred.
Yeah.
Who are always trying to disrupt the poor monsters' lives.
So... His daughter grows up, and I guess this is centuries later. But
no, she's supposed to. It's her 118th birthday.
There you go.
So I guess the wife died 100 years ago.
Yeah.
But yeah. So 118, and
she's having a birthday.
This is her coming out party, and so I guess vampires are kind of stupid because she's lived 118 years and she still acts like a
18-year-old,
like a stupid teenager.
Yeah.
She's childish and petulant and bratty and bossy and spoiled.
Yeah.
And, Adam Sandler is no better.
And has no concept about the surrounding areas of the castle. She's been living for 100 years. She has no inclination to go out. But now she's 118 and she wants to go out.
Well, her
daddy
Dracula has promised that when she was 118, she'd be allowed to leave if she wanted to. So this is now. She's going to take her dad up on this offer. But her dad has, built a village to appear to be human beings, but in fact they're zombies with masks on. So the daughter, Mavis is the character Selena Gomez plays, the daughter goes to this fake village, and of course they're all horrible. And she comes flying back to the castle in her bat shape, crying to her daddy, you were right, humans are horrible.
Yeah, but... one follows her back.
He doesn't follow her back. He's just sort of...
He's a hiker.
He's a hiker, and he's just in the neighborhood, and he manages to skirt the zombie village. And he's such a California cliche, ooh, dude, really, ooh. And that's Andy Samberg, who on Saturday Night Live I find about as funny as, the commercials in between the sketches.
Yeah.
Oh, to me, he's a dullard, but... Anyway, in this, he just does a California stoner voice the whole time.
Yep.
And he's just as stupid as the daughter is. But by the end of the movie, what do you think happens? Dracula gives his consent. The two of them are going to go off and have little half-vampire babies or whatever. Yeah,
Dracula's mind has been changed. Thinking that, humans are terrible. Of course... over the century that he's been hiding, he doesn't bother to go look to see what's happening with humans, so he thinks they're all still living in the 1800s.
Yeah. But wasn't the castle full of modern technologies and stuff?
I don't know. I can't remember. It's been a while. Anyway, the animation is fine.
Yeah,
there's nothing wrong with the animation. I found
it was too. I thought it was too.
I found that
plain.
The voice acting was poor, and for some of the characters, some of them were okay.
Yeah.
And overall, it was just way too. If you're going to make a monster movie. Yeah. Make a monster movie, not a fluffy, movie.
I know.
It's not...
Why gut the monsters right at the beginning? Why, castrate
make them all nice
and make them all nice? It's such a cliche.
Yeah.
With animation, you could make the scariest movie ever made, and I would rather see that. And I would rather take the kids to that and have them traumatized.
I thought it was an interesting idea having that as a hotel and all those different characters kind of coming into the hotel.
Yeah.
Now, why not make some of them real pure evil?
Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah, and they're wrecking the rooms or something. Yeah.
Something.
No, it was
lame.
Like,
it's made for 5-year-olds.
Yeah. I'm glad I don't have kids. But I have to take them to these awful movies.
Actually, this would be a good movie for a 5-year-old.
Yeah.
It's that level.
I think a 6-year-old would find
Adam
it dull.
Sandler his performance in this is terrible.
He's childish.
His line delivery and I found it annoying listening to him.
I always find it annoying listening to him. Honestly, I thought he was okay on Saturday Night Live, even though he always giggled at his own jokes, which is a terrible thing. When I was a kid, I remember a comedian on TV saying the secret to being a good comedian is to keep a straight face.
Yeah.
To not laugh at your own jokes. Leave that to the audience.
Unless it's really hilarious and you made it up in the spur of the moment.
Some off-the-cuff moment. You
might laugh at it because you just you could say, I don't believe I just said that.
Yeah, sure.
But if it's something planned and rehearsed, no.
Well, this is why the old Carol Burnett show used to make me angry instead of me enjoying it, because every single hour-long episode there would be a moment when the little guy would make Harvey Korman crack up.
Yeah.
Well, first off, you're not going to do a second take where they act professional rather than ridiculous?
Okay.
That was intentional. And it's like, oh, it's so funny the way that little guy makes the big guy crack up every single time. If he's doing it every single time, then Harvey Korman is not acting professionally. And that, to me, is wrong. Well, let's get off that trash and on to...
it cost $85 million for that. It's just, I just had to put that in because, what will they spend money on?
Trash. All right, we've got a far more interesting movie now, although it's probably the craziest movie, and I mean, like, certifiably nuts. It's called Room 237. It's a 2012 documentary directed by Rodney Asher. And all it is like 4 or 5 or 6 people giving their theories on what's actually happening in Stanley Kubrick's
The Shining.
The Shining. You got one guy who says, well, this is Stanley Kubrick making public his involvement with the faking of the footage of the moon landing.
Yeah, I thought that was good.
And yet this guy doesn't want to appear to be a total whack job, so he says, now I'm not saying that the moon landing was faked. I'm saying the footage of the moon landing
was fake.
As if they've got the technology to get them to the moon, but we forgot the camera.
We don't have any film.
Oh my goodness.
Well,
it's
the U.S.
Very entertaining, though, wouldn't you say?
I just kept shaking my head. And who are these people?
Oh, I know. They're
it's
sort
like,
of nuts.
this is the story of the plight of the native Indians.
Oh, yeah, the slaughter and the Holocaust.
The Holocaust.
This is all about the killing of 6 million Jews by Hitler.
Yeah. 1942. Yeah. 42 appears everywhere.
42 is everywhere in the movie.
Yeah. It's like, and this number is, this is the number of this Apollo space thing.
That's right.
And then the carpet has the same design as the launch pad.
As the giant cooling pad or whatever it was at Canaveral.
Yeah.
It is one madness piled on another.
Honestly, to make this movie perfect was to have Kubrick come, if only if it was done before he died.
Yeah.
But if Kubrick could just come in and say, wrong. It's like, you're slightly right here.
Yeah. What I gathered from this movie, my own thoughts, and I've seen The Shining a dozen times, my own thoughts on that movie is that, like all of Kubrick's movies, certainly from Paths of Glory, which is about 1960, I think, from about 1960 on, because he did make a couple of movies earlier that were not bad movies, but they're not great movies. But from about Paths of Glory onward, he made very, very dense movies. They were visually dense. They were dense scripts. There was deep meaning. And there's so much in Kubrick's movies that it just grabs some people and shakes them and forces them to try to find meaning. And the meaning may just be what you see.
Yeah.
It's Kubrick telling a story. Now, undeniably, he was a cinematic genius. He was a chess master. He was a great writer and, arguably a historian to some extent. Mm-hmm. But I really don't think that he was making movies deliberately to tell secret stories.
Yeah.
And then you get this one guy who starts talking about, now, consider Barry Lyndon. which is one of my very favorite Kubrick movies. It's so boring that even Stanley Kubrick, he made it to show how bored he was. Oh, it's slow and majestic and of the time that it's talking about.
Right.
It isn't full of rapid jump cuts like The Shining is.
Yeah.
It isn't full of snappy dialogue back and forth. You know,
it's pompous.
Well, I don't find it pompous.
Well, pomp and circumstance.
Regal.
Yeah,
it's majestic in the dynamics between the characters because you have Barry, who's a little better than a peasant, an Irish peasant, but from a poor family, and it's his rise to the top and then his crash.
Right.
So it's an old story. It's, it's
happened
the
before.
American dream.
Yeah. Or even the American society in general.
Well, yeah, but certainly it's the American dream. Kubrick may have made his most of his movies in England.
Right.
Various reasons he wasn't happy in the U.S., but he was American. Mm-hmm. And, he was an American filmmaker, no matter what you say. He made Dr. Strangelove in England. But
in 2001, isn't it?
All his movies.
Yeah.
All his movies, but how many of them are set in England? Clockwork Orange. But 2001
is in space.
Yeah, well, but they're Americans.
Yes,
all the main characters
obviously
are
those monkeys were in the United States.
Probably, yeah. How come they couldn't find the monolith on the Earth?
Yeah.
They find the one on the moon. Why hasn't anybody noticed the one that the monkeys had
maybe
on Earth?
Maybe it disappeared.
Maybe it went up to the moon. And
it might be the same one.
There. Yeah.
It might be the very same one.
Yeah, we don't know.
Yeah. But that's the
thing.
The
conspiracy means.
But that's the thing about Kubrick's movies.
Yeah.
You can dissect them all you want, and you can make up things all you want.
Yeah.
The thing is that they are very interesting, and they are very well shot, so that, that poster of a minotaur, which is really just, a skier?
It's a guy skiing.
It's a guy skiing, but it looks like a minotaur, is indicative because...
Well, because there's a maze in it, and the old Greek myth of the minotaur being locked in the maze.
Okay.
And that's what that particular woman was getting at. But... I mean, just none of their theories, apart from, as you say, okay, maybe there's a touch of that.
Yeah.
There might even be a little bit of the minotaur.
The baking soda, symbolizing the slaughter of all native Indians across from Portland to Portland.
Yeah.
Just because he has a baking soda can with an Indian
on it.
Yeah. It's like, okay. It's an interesting thing to have in the background, and he did have it in 2 shots.
Yep.
And does that mean the whole movie's about that?
About the slaughter of native Indians.
Yeah.
Well, the evidence of that is about as deep,
feeble
as it's about as definite as evidence of any of these other theories.
Well, yeah.
And that is that Kubrick may have even thought of these things and added them in as touches, but that doesn't mean that it isn't also just a ghost story. Now, one person did have an interesting theory, and this is one that I hadn't really considered, but there's no magic in The Shining except for Jack getting out of the locked food cooler.
Right.
And the one crazy, pardon me, who brings that up says it's Danny. Danny's the one who lets him out. Danny's the one with the psychic powers who's controlling his dad to do these terrible things so that eventually he can be killed and Danny will have his mum to himself.
Yeah.
Very Freudian, right?
Right.
So it's entirely possible that this is a theme running through it. But, and I love the little mention where Stephen King had the Torrances driving up in a red Volkswagen.
Yeah.
And Kubrick deliberately made it a yellow Volkswagen. And as Scatman Crothers' character is driving up in the middle of winter, there's an overturned truck and a crushed red Volkswagen, and the one person says, and this is Stanley Kubrick giving the finger to Stephen King. I crushed you, which I love.
Oh, what about the fact that let's reverse the projector?
Oh no, it's so stupid. Let's play the movie backwards on top of the movie running frontwards.
Forward. So
Yeah.
And halfway, it would be exactly the same movie backwards.
Going the other way.
Yeah.
I know.
It's like the same images over top of it. And they say,
silly.
well, notice how his mouth is over this picture of him at the end. And you're going, they did the same thing with Pink Floyd in The Wizard of Oz.
Wizard of Oz, yeah.
It's like, it's just...
It's wonderfully coincidental, but it doesn't mean anything.
Did you think the makers of The Wizard of Oz were really thinking of...
Yeah.
Or Pink Floyd?
And also, I mean, if Kubrick had gone to the trouble of making his movie so that it ought to play backwards, where exactly are we going to see it backwards?
Yeah.
There aren't any projectionists threading the film through the wrong way round.
I mean, if you want to blow your mind, you can take any movie, put any sound,
of course you
play any album against it and say, whoa.
Yeah, well, I think you got to be pretty much stoned out of your gourd to really appreciate that.
Yeah, but it's
fun.
It's fun.
Yeah.
Somebody did post on the net, the Pink Floyd Wizard of Oz.
Yeah,
and you can watch it.
I had friends over and I queued up the turntable and started the movie. And yes, there are interesting coincidences, one of which is particular song that goes on during the tornado was wonderful background music. But, this is an old stoner thing to do. You turn the TV on with the sound down and have your music blaring, and you're just looking at random images now. And sometimes they seem to sync.
Yeah.
Just like sometimes the meteor flashing by in the sky seems to be your dad tapping you on the shoulder.
You're saying, hey, I know you're thinking of me.
Yeah,
And I'm thinking of you.
But it's coincidence, and life is full of coincidences, and we're lucky if they're happy coincidences rather than...
But I think it's an interesting way of kind of like getting creative by mixing things up. Watching images while listening to something else, it spurs your imagination.
Yeah.
And it can actually make you be more creative in that realm. So I think
randomness is something that the Beatles, for example, embraced.
It's like taking drugs without having to take drugs, right?
Yeah, right.
It's like... So... I can understand why these people are so fanatical about the movie. One of them was actually saying, one of the guys...
I hated it. I hated this movie.
I hated this movie, but I kept watching it every couple of years. And it's like, then I had to dissect the damn thing. It's like, why do I hate it so much? Why do I keep watching this?
People listening will probably be able to guess I'm a big bullshitter. I can jibber jabber for hours. Back in high school and college, when I would take an English class and we had to... What's the deep meaning of a poem?
Yeah.
I can make up a meaning.
Oh, yeah.
I can find meanings in a poem. Now, did the poet have anything to do with that? Maybe, maybe not. But I know I've also written things, and people say, wow, that was really clever what you put in there. And I'll go, okay, thank you. And I didn't see the juxtaposition. I didn't see the full meaning of it.
I remember I was...
Because I do think our brains work... And I think in an artistic sense, I think our brains work on many levels, not all of them conscious.
Yeah.
I'm sure Kubrick did. But Kubrick also, he was such a fastidious and such a careful and totally anal filmmaker.
Oh, yes, definitely.
There isn't anything on any of his screens that he didn't want on his screens.
Yeah. Which is why I think people can pick it apart and say, why did he put that there?
And why they're worth watching.
And why did the chair disappear behind him?
That's right. Are they really just terrible continuity errors?
I don't think so. I think he did some of these things on purpose, especially and that dopey sticker disappearing.
Yeah, that's right. That was funny, wasn't it?
Yeah, and you go, okay, I can see him screwing with our minds.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
And he's doing it at a subconscious level. What Mark referred to is the scene near the beginning of The Shining when Jack is being interviewed at the hotel and Wendy and the kid, Danny, are back at their apartment in Aspen. And Danny is standing on the stool looking into the mirror talking with the little guy who lives in his mouth. And as the camera moves into Danny in the bathroom, there's kids' stickers on the bathroom door, including one of Dopey, Walt Disney's Dopey from the Seven Dwarfs. And then after the kid sees the vision of the blood pouring out of the elevator, or grape juice, whatever the hell it is, and he faints, and he wakes up, or the next scene, he's in bed, and his mom is there looking worried, and there's a woman doctor there examining him. And on the door in the background, there's no Dopey sticker. And so this one person's theory is that he didn't know what was going on. And then Tony showed him what's going on. and now he's no longer dopey.
Yeah.
That is interesting, and that is the sort of lovely little touch that Kubrick might have put in.
And the design on the carpet, especially the one in the room.
Oh, and the reversing of it. That was peculiar, wasn't it?
Yeah.
There's no way that happens by accident, moving the camera all the way around behind the kid.
No. He didn't have to do that. He didn't have to turn it around. All you had to do was move to the next one over, and it would have been opposite.
No, I paid attention to that. No, it is actually, it's reversed. It is reversed.
And the fact that the one in the room, the rounded one, the design, it's just a giant penis.
Yeah, it sure looks
surrounded
like it.
by bubbles.
Yeah. Well, we find out later that the hotel, the Overlook, has in fact been home over the decades to all kinds of weird sex parties.
There you go.
And murder and whatever.
And that's what we all live for.
And that it's built on an Indian burial ground.
Of course, yes.
And I always figured it's the Indians helping Danny with the maze and do the backwards walking to confuse his dad so that his dad gets lost in it. I always thought it's the Indian spirits guiding him to do their trick, which was to mask their footprints.
Right.
I'm not crazy. But I read things into it as well.
Of course you do.
Yeah, and of course Poltergeist. There's your dead Indians again.
Yeah,
all over the place. Never buy land or stay in a hotel where there's dead Indians buried.
Well, my mom was just telling me about my aunt who lives in West Virginia. They have property that have Indian burial grounds. And in fact, a cousin of mine over there somewhere, by marriage, she's living in a house that has ghosts running through it.
All right.
And the kids have seen the ghosts and everything. Okay. So it's like it's a common occurrence there.
I'm sure it is.
You might laugh, but I believe in ghosts. So there you go.
I will laugh, and you can believe in
anyway, I think
like.
that's about all we got for this week.
So I would really recommend this. If you like The Shining, check this out.
Just
even
for a
though
laugh.
It's nuts.
It is crazy.
Yeah.
And when I was watching, I'm going, these guys are nuts.
Yeah.
These guys. I mean, they bring up some interesting points, but most of it
just enough that it makes a documentary worth making.
Yeah.
I mean, if they were all totally,
But that's why I say, you can make all these wild accusations that you want.
Assumptions.
But our assumptions.
Yeah.
But if the director could only just sit there and say, okay, you guys are nuts.
Yeah. Well, I think they speak for themselves, though. Yeah. I think they demonstrate their wackoness.
I would like to know that if he put this here, what it represents.
Yeah.
He could have written it down in a diary somewhere.
Yeah. Oh, it'd be nice to see the proof.
Yeah.
So that's it for this episode, folks. We will be back next week talking about Iron Man 3 and Star Trek Into Darkness.
Two biggies.
We're going to match them head to head. We're going to make them fight. Phasers against armor. And I also want to mention that we're going to be talking about a little independent movie called Alpha Girls next week.
Should be fun.
Friend of the show, Johnny Zito, asked us to look at his movie. We'll be talking about that next time.